Welcome to another episode of Care-isma, where we explore the intersection of caregiving, wellness, and real talk. I'm your co-host, Nikki.
And I'm Tara, and today we're diving into something personal, something many caregivers experience but don't often talk about: the moment your own health crisis forces you to shift priorities.
In this episode, we are talking with our guest, the multi-hyphenate Susanne White, a speaker, author, blogger, caregiver advocate, and founder of Caregiver Warrior.
She is the leading voice in caregiving, known for her best-selling book named Self-Care for Caregivers, engaging keynotes, dynamic webinars, and compassionate ERG leadership. Let's get into it.
Susanne, welcome. We are so excited and honored to have you on our podcast today. How are you today? And I'm so curious if you can share a little bit about your brand, the Caregiver Warrior.
First of all, thank you so much. It's so good to be in this space with you too. You know, you're two of my favorite caregiver warriors. Big fans, big fans. So it's so great to hang out with you guys. Caregiver warrior, yes. Caregiver warrior came about after I took care of both of my parents, and I had to jump into that journey kind of quickly. And just found out that there was just nothing to be found out. Like I had to learn, but I didn't have a lot of people to, support me or a lot of information. And so many caregivers, because I was really smart. I surrounded myself by caregivers. I was lucky to get that like early on. They would say to me, "No one tells you about this." Like, you'd be like, "Oh my God, nobody tells you about this." And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll take some notes because I used to be a singer-songwriter. I can take some notes. And sure enough, I started blogging and just my story. This is just my personal take on how to survive. And people started to relate to it. And therefore, Caregiver Warrior was born. And I believe caregivers are warriors. You know, my dad was a World War II bombardier hero pilot, and, I know like a lot of people who are warriors, and I thought, caregivers go to battle every day. And I know, Tara, you know a lot about this too. It's like we're warriors. We're out there fighting in the trenches all the time to protect the people we love.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why when I was caring for my ex-husband, who's a veteran, I would always hear people say, thank you for your service. And so that's why I try to extend that to not just veteran caregivers but all caregivers, because it's necessary. It's the same thing like you said. So that makes total sense.
Right. It's absolutely necessary. And you know what's key to what you said, Susanne? You have experienced being a caregiver. When you first started, no one tells you about what's all involved. And I had looked up the definition of warrior, and it says it's a noun. So person, people, okay. And it means a brave or experienced fighter. And I love that you have coined the term caregiver warrior, because now, even if you are new to caregiving, you are considered brave. Mm-hmm. And the experience that you have will allow you to continue to keep fighting, keep persevering. And I love that you have created that almost like an environment for caregivers to know that they are the heroes. They got this. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, I had a little bit of a pushback when I first, a friend of mine who's in marketing said, "Oh, that, it's caregiving and that warrior seems to be like a little kind of aggressive." And I said, "Yeah, but, we're fighting out there. Do you know how many things I have to combat every day to keep somebody safe and warm and less afraid?" So we are not little flowers that sit in the back. Right. Caregivers are warriors, and we're the champions of those we care for.
Wow, I love that. I can't front. When I heard the term, I kind of thought like, oh man, are we going to always keep fighting? But what I found was the balance that you have in your content, which I follow you on LinkedIn, and we're also following you on TikTok. And the content that you share there is more of a soft battling. It's where you are making more space to create boundaries, making more space to just prioritize yourself and your care. So I appreciate that even though you are terming it as caregiver warrior, there's space for rest, even in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
Yes,
fighting for peace is what it feels
Fighting
like.
for peace. Oh,
Yeah.
gee, drop the mic. Fighting for peace. Exactly. I love
exactly. You know, we don't sit back. You know, it doesn't mean that we have to be in somebody's face. It doesn't mean that we have to be controlling. It doesn't mean that we have to be helicopter caregivers. But and I found with my mom with dementia, the softer I was, you know, the softer she became and the easier it was to deal with her. So there's great strength in being vulnerable and creative and sort of sitting and watching. A warrior has a lot of great control over energy.
Wow.
And right? And hopefully that energy is used for good.
Yes. Hopefully. Well, so there are layers to it, is what you're basically saying. I love that. So now, where do you think self-judgment can play into being a caregiver warrior?
So I know you both experienced this, and I've been doing this for a while now. And I only say that because about what I'm about to say. So I've been doing this for like 10 years. To this day, every time I meet a caregiver, every time I meet a caregiver, somewhere along in the conversation, they put themselves down.
Mm.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Like there'll be a little of, well, I could have done that better. Or like I kind of messed that up, but I made up for it. It's like every conversation, it makes me crazy and it upsets me so much because it's this thing we have, and I think maybe in society in general, but caregivers who take on so much responsibility and are so committed and so dedicated don't have the space where they give themselves grace. And it doesn't go away no matter how many messages we send and how much, on TikTok or all our content. It seems like it's a message I constantly have to hit. Please give yourself a break. Stop putting yourself down. It's a mindset.
Do you have an idea of where it might come from? Because I feel like sometimes it comes from maybe who we care for. Sometimes I feel like it comes from the doctors. Sometimes it comes from extended family that isn't caregiving. It feels as though the people that are judging aren't caregivers, because I think we all agree that we wouldn't do that. We may give suggestions, we may help in different ways, but it would never be in a judgmental way.
Yes, I agree completely. And I don't have an answer because if I did, I think I'd bottle it. But I do, I do think this. I think that we have to listen to our inner selves and to our hearts, which I kind of feel is like divine space. We have to listen to that quiet voice that's saying, "You got this. You're great. You're okay. You're here for a reason." All that stuff that like we have to really be centered because yes, the outside world, especially now, is a world of so much judgment and opinion and unasked for feedback. And we have to deal with doctors and medical professionals and family members, all of whom have this agenda. And and there's a lot of good intention out there, but a lot of times we just have to say to ourselves, I'm a good person with good intentions. I'm human. I made a mistake. That doesn't mean I am the mistake.
Right. Yeah, I want to add to what you're saying, Suzanne. When you had mentioned how a lot of caregivers don't practice enough grace, I think when it comes to self-judgment, we're also not practicing enough gratitude. We're not being grateful for ourselves, like giving ourselves those flowers, telling ourselves, you know what, we might have made a mistake on that one, but guess what? We're still a badass because we showed up today. Okay. And that's a big deal. Showing up is a big deal. Staying through, practicing patience when you know you're really hangry and you don't got time for it, but you still did it anyway. Show yourself some gratitude.
Yeah.
Practice the grace and practice the gratitude. And that lessens a lot of the self-judgment. And again, to your point about how some people do have an agenda, some people will give unsolicited and unasked for opinions and advice. But listening to yourself, leaning in on your own skill set, your own talent, your own natural gifts, your own pursuit of love for your loved one will help you tremendously to combat the self-judgment, to be the warrior against the self-judgment.
Exactly. And it's really so important to do that, to listen to ourselves, like, and our track record. I mean, like, I'm not 21 anymore. I'm still
Okay.
here. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Go on, Susanne.
I have this track record. Have I made major mistakes in my life? Of course I have. But I've learned from them. And I'm a better person every day because I have more knowledge and I'm trying to tap into that. I'm a good person. So I have to say, hey, I got this. I have a great track record. I will survive. I will survive. And I mean, that's what we have to tell caregivers to do. That to look at your track record. And yeah, give ourselves this grace and say, we're not giving up. And look, there's a lot of people who can't even show up. We see that with family members a lot of the times. And I had to get to learn to be really gentle about that because I'm kind of a overachiever, that they don't show up because they can't show up for whatever reason. They don't have that capacity. I showed up. You guys showed up. So we're stars.
Yeah, that says a lot. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
It definitely says a lot.
it's interesting how also there's obviously a lot of emotions when you're a caregiver because we're caring for our loved ones. I mean, unless it's your career, but even still,
Mhm.
we love humans, so it's like, yeah, of course we want everybody to do well. So it's very interesting to see how people react in situations that make it so that they feel uncomfortable. They lash out instead of leaning in. And as caregivers, we sometimes take that on and when we shouldn't. So I think it's really important that we choose our battles.
Yeah.
We choose how we want to show up, and
And it's a process too, I mean, like I learn all the time. Like I'm on my third journey now as a caregiver. So I've learned a lot and a lot of it I've forgotten and I'd have to relearn it. But I think we have to spend less energy worrying about what other people think. Like there's a great saying, like what other people think of me is none of my business. And I think we have to get back into listening to who we are and being self-aware. Like I said, I'm constantly learning, and there are times where I do get hangry and I do lose my patience, or I feel really guilty about stuff, and I'm automatically putting myself down. And I think that I have to be self-aware. And I have to say, okay, why am I okay, what's going on? And what do I need to take care of me so I can show up a little bit better today?
Right. So if this is your third time around caring for someone, we're curious. When do you think you realized that you were spending more of your energy judging yourself rather than caring for that person that you were caring for?
The gift of caring for my mom.
And
That
is
was
she the first person that you started taking care of?
Yeah. Prime one that I think of, because we had a tumultuous relationship. We didn't get along really well.
Wow.
Because we were exactly the same.
Wow. Thank you for showing up for her anyway. Whoa. That
Well,
takes
I loved her. Nikki, I loved her. You know what I mean? Like I'm lucky in that I had parents that really loved me. She really loved me. She just had some issues, I think, that were never diagnosed, with anxiety, and she was really afraid that I was going to get hurt. She didn't kind of ever work through that. So I couldn't change her. I
okay.
had to change me.
Ooh, wait a minute. Let it marinate. Wow. That was hot. Let it breathe. 1 second. Okay.
too
Uh-huh.
relatable. Too relatable.
Too relatable.
And I was really resentful and angry, and I was miserable. I mean, I was miserable, and on top of the exhaustion and the frustration and the fear and the guilt and the grief, and on top of all that stuff, especially when you're in a role reversal situation with a parent, I was just miserable. And I said, I can't, I'm not going to stop doing this because I'm down, but I can't do this like this anymore. So at that point, I said, okay, so let's put it on the chopping block. What's got to go? And I knew my mom and dad weren't going to change. I mean, the disease was going to progress. But so the only person I could change was the person in the mirror, the man in the mirror. So slowly but surely, I began to really look at myself within the context of my relationship with my mom. And that was a game changer for my life.
Wow.
I healed that relationship with her. Yeah.
That's huge. That's a plot twist.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
doing the work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I think
amazing.
what you did. Why I'm saying it's a plot twist is because you treated that as a challenge and then created a character development for yourself,
Mm.
and that is a power tool. Way to go!
Mhm.
Congratulations, indeed.
Thank you. Thank you. And I thank you for the support because I love to hear that. That's great. But I've really felt like I didn't have a choice. Look, I think caregivers are hardwired. I think we're born. I think those of us who show up we were born that way, right? I just think we're like hardwired and we care about other people. And I don't think it's ever an issue for us about caring for somebody else. It's about how we care for ourselves while we care for somebody else. Right. So, in other words, I think that we have all this, we're empaths, we have this compassion, we have empathy. However, I think when we get caught up in all of that, we forget about us. And for me to get along with my mom, my back was on a corner. I wasn't going to stop caring for her, but I didn't want to be miserable anymore. So I think, I got a lot of help from my friend, from whatever you believe in a higher power by saying, hell, help me because I don't get this. I know something's wrong. What can I do? And I think thank God I realized, well, what do you mean when you get mad or what triggers you or why can she push your buttons like that? Like, what's the history behind that? The curiosity about that. And that's when because if you're going to push my be an idiot button, I'm going to be an idiot. So it's my job to reduce the buttons. So I think I don't take credit like God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. You got to figure this out. You got to figure out what's going on in your own head, which is a lot of crap while you're dealing with your mom.
Wow. And making space for yourself to take the time to do that, that also takes a lot of courage because it might be uncomfortable when you finally realize what is the issue. Ooh, what is the challenge here? Okay, I get it. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Mhm. Yes, and and life on life's terms, I mean, like we don't all have the best relationships. I mean, it's great for the normies who grow up in really loving great households or what I mean, we all have different life experiences and I think that I want to make a difference. I mean, I think that's what we all, as caregivers, we want to make a difference for people that we care for. And I think in my journey of doing that, I got to learn stuff and I got to face stuff. And it's hard, but it's so much easier. We spend so much energy in negativity and doing like my mom and I did. Like we were constantly, it was like, who had the last word? And that's how I grew up. Like, who has the last word? To this day, I do it. I can do it. It bothers me. But, I had to say, like, what's that about? You're going to lose her.
Mm.
At some point, it kind of clicked to me like, hey, like, do you want to go to her funeral feeling like crappy? Or do you want to feel like you both had some kind of peace? Like, that's kind of where I went with it. It's hard, but I spent so much energy being mad at her. And then
Yeah.
myself, and then myself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's energy that's associated with that. What do you think is the most ridiculous thing that you have ever judged yourself
Oh,
for as your
uh,
mom's caregiver?
so I think the one that's coming up for me now is that I didn't keep them in their home
Mhm.
for them to pass away, right?
Okay.
In other words, I made a promise to them. They both wanted to die at home, and neither of them did. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing at myself, okay? And I won't get into the whole long story, but the bottom line of it is up until about 12 weeks of their life, I kept them together in their apartment. But in my mind, I broke the promise. That was the most ridiculous thing I ever did. How could I do that? I made a promise to them. And all of a sudden, I'm beginning to realize the definition of home. It's not the four walls they were in. It was the fact that I had to move both of them to due to really big circumstances to a safe place where they could get 24-hour care. Both of them. And they died 7 weeks after each other. My dad died first and my mom died 7 weeks later. And I think of a broken heart, but whatever. Okay. So, but up until like 12 weeks of their lives, I bent over backwards to keep them under duress at home with everything at home.
Right.
So I didn't break a promise to them. I just moved the home to where they were just as safe and just as cared for when I couldn't do it, when it just physically was not possible for me to do it anymore.
I love that. And I would love to agree with you. I don't think that you broke a promise. I think sometimes in life we have to practice pivoting in a way that's healthy and safe. So even though it might have been a ridiculous thing that you judged yourself for, the rational and realistic thing was that you had to position your parents in a space that was safe and healthy for them both. And for that, I'm giving you digital flowers. Okay. You did amazing. And
Thank you.
as Tara always says, thank you for your service.
Period. Period. Yeah,
But
I know that it's hard for a lot of people, especially, I mean, and I understand the fear on that perspective too, for the people that we're caring for. I understand that fear. I think obviously as caregivers, that is our job to make sure that they are healthy and as safe as possible. And in doing so, we are doing that for ourselves. So it's not as though we are letting them go. It's just we're asking for help. We are, creating the team that we need. And I think that's important to understand, and that, hey, the home is still here. And, depending on their health situations, you can always come back. You can always come visit. This is not a forever or a, whatever can help with their ease. But I think at the end of the day, it's understanding that nothing's changed. Yeah. The home has just a different definition. And I think that's a great way of looking at it.
And that's a wonderful way of framing it for everybody involved, that we have to do this right now. This is what right now, and that which is like staying in today, which is so hard to do, is to stay in the present. But I think when we sort of feel that way and we communicate that way, I think that's really, really beautiful for everyone involved. And yes, had either of them gotten better, they would have come back home. I would have done whatever I had to do. And I think it's a really hard decision for a lot of caregivers to make. Get back to listening to your heart.
Yeah.
You know when you have to make that decision, when by keeping them status quo, it's not safe.
Right. Right.
For anybody.
Do you think with your experience and now you continuing to be a caregiver, how is that changing the way you're caring for yourself now? Because I know that you've had some diagnoses and that you're caring for yourself in a different way than you have prior. Like, how are you showing up?
Well, I'm still learning. Don't do what I do. Like, do what I talk about. I'm learning. I'm still learning, and it's hard. It's really hard. I'm learning a lot about the healing process. That just like grief, it doesn't have a time limit on it, and we all heal differently. And healing is a big master teacher. It's a master class. Healing is multifaceted, and we have to be really gentle with ourselves about it. So I think that's the one thing that I consistently have to learn is patience. It's like caregiving is not about, it's about the unknown in a lot of ways, but caregiving is not about the future. I mean, it is, but caregiving is really about the here and now. And
Yeah.
right. And as much as we can, I laugh because it's so hard for me. I can't control anything. I have to just sort of stay right in the here and now, one day at a time. I think I've probably gotten better at that, but it's still a struggle. But I know that that's a mission I have to be on, because it's not going to go the way I want. My healing, I had brain surgery 2 years ago, and my healing is just like nothing I want. It's just nothing's going the way I want it to go. And nothing went the way with my loved ones. It was just the way.
Yeah, Nikki and I were talking recently about like traveling and things like that, and how when you are setting yourself up to go out and you have your luggage, like you're packing extra underwear. You may not need it, but you're doing the things to prepare yourself. Like you're putting the things together, the just in case, right? And I think that in a way that's like a great metaphor for what caregivers do. We are setting ourselves up for the what ifs, and then we're just doing our best to kind of go with the flow and be present when we're on vacation. So I think having that mindset is really important, and I think you're doing a great job of doing that with yourself as well.
Yeah, brain surgery is not light work. That was huge. Okay.
Yeah, but see, I'm a typical caregiver slash patient in that I'm not healing fast enough or recovering fast enough or getting back to my old normal fast enough. And I think we do it as caregivers. I think feel like we're not doing enough. And I think as patients, sometimes it's like, oh my God, why isn't everything okay? It's a really difficult journey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And not for nothing, we're living in a society that prioritizes speed. And that narrative, it happens to flow in a lot of us because we grew up with it. It is our norm to be fast. We got to keep going. But what is the rush? Where are we going? Like you said, caregiving is about being present. Let's be here right now. And like Tara pointed out, we should be prepared for whatever, but also be present. There's balance in that. And there's also a recalibration in nerves with that. Okay. You can calm yourself once you know, hey, listen, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but at least I'm prepared for whatever, the inevitable. And I'm also in a place where I can breathe. I can take it easy. I can be patient with myself, go slow if I need to. I broke both my feet in 2017, and I was also trying to rush. Where was I going? I don't know, but it had to be fast. Okay.
To better to how it was before, to like it never happened. I feel like that's kind of the rhetoric of all this. Can we get back to where it was? Can we not?
Yeah.
Yes. You are so right, T. It's a mindset shift. You have to really retrain, rewire your brain, because you are constantly in whatever routine and mode that you were in. And then when something comes in, like that curveball comes in and just changes the whole game, now you have to pivot. Now you have to act accordingly. And I wasn't doing that. And in turn, I ended up in the emergency room because I messed up one of my spinal discs. Like, it was a wild horse road. It was bad. It was very bad. But I learned, because my body told me to, it shut everything down. And I
had a choice.
I did not have a choice. If I did have a choice, T, I'd have kept on going. I ain't even gonna hold it. Okay.
La. Didn't happen. We're good. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. I would have kept him pushing. But my body forced me. And that's not good either, because then I really couldn't show up for my loved one and care for them the way that I was. Now I had to care for myself and care for them. And it was annoying and aggravating, because it's like, come on, legs, let's go. And legs could not go. Legs had to stop. Legs had to ask for help from other people. And Tara pointed it out. She said, even in this care journey, you need a team. And as warriors, there's plural in there, right? We need a team. We need to be able to have support, because we cannot, nor should we, do it all alone. And whether that support is an actual person or technology or social workers or whatever it is that you have curated for your own care journey, then so be it. But do not do it alone.
It takes a village. And I think, had it not been for other caregivers or the support, I mean, I had somebody say to me once, someone I really love say to me, I believe, Susanne, that when you take care of others, people will show up to take care of you. But you gotta have the door open. I think we have to realize, because I want to be a lone ranger. I want to make sure, and I mean, it's one of my issues, because I want to do everything perfectly. So I'm a lone ranger. Asking for help was a really hard thing for me to do. And I slowly but surely I learned. And by the end of my journey with my parents, I had a team.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, and Western is trending. Cowboy Carter all the way. Okay. But you're right. We need a team. Okay. Yes.
I have so many images now of caregivers, like in cowboy hats and
with the rope? With the rodeo?
For it. Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of white horses.
Oh, look at us.
Oh my goodness. Look, here's the thing with this, and this is what's so wonderful about this, okay? we're all out here struggling, and the struggle, I'm okay with the struggle that I go through caring for somebody else. That's like, I don't have a problem with that. That's not my issue. The issue is the struggle that I have with me. The hard time that I give me, or maybe the hard time that, somebody else gives themselves. It's like such a waste of my energy. Like, I got enough going on. I don't need, the judge and jury in my head. Even with healing and getting better, it's like, relax. You're right. Where am I going?
Yeah, ease up off her, okay? Ease up off her, all right? That inner critic, that judgment, ease up off of her. I think we're so hard on ourselves, even more so as a caregiver, because we have so much more responsibility. We're not just taking care of ourselves, we are now responsible for a whole other human person or people.
Yeah.
Dear God, have its mercy, all right?
Yes.
But we need to ease up off ourselves.
Yeah.
Get off of our own back.
Okay. And see, and I think people see the three of us, and I look up to you too. Do you know what I mean? I love your content. You motivate, inspire me, and hopefully I say something here along that you like. But they're seeing us go, oh my gosh, we don't have the answers, but we're here to share with you that we feel the same way, and I think that's really important. I think that's our mission, is to save one caregiver at a time by saying, I feel the same way.
Yeah. When you hear yourself, when you see someone who looks like you and hear their story and it sounds like yours, it matters. It makes another person feel seen and heard. It makes them know they are not alone. This is not really an isolating experience. It doesn't have to be, because there's someone else who knows my struggle. There's someone else who has gone through similar things like me. So it's important that we all raise our voices and share our experiences as much as we're comfortable with, and help one caregiver a day or at a time. Right. It matters. It's important.
Or even the non-caregivers, let them know what we're doing and how we're struggling, because that's, I think, the disconnect for me, at least. When we all meet each other, when we all see each other, it's like there's an instant connection because we're all on the same.
We get it.
We all get it. But it's the people who don't do what we do, who are then the judging, who are then have opinions, who are then not understanding our day to day. But as we're showing and sharing and seeing other caregivers and them sharing their journeys for whomever they're caring for, I think it's, like we all said, just super powerful to see that we're not alone.
Right. And there's a gentleness and there's a kindness, right? There's a kindness from caregiver to caregiver. It's just a really good space to be in, to get support from people who understand, who have been there. There's just and like we laugh, I had a really hard laugh today with you two. Do you know what I mean? It's like a belly, it's like a real laugh, because I know,
Yeah.
There's this river underneath all of us where, we're just kindred souls kind of, and I just, and I think the more we help people understand how special they are because they show up and because they're caring for others, that and that they need to really look in the mirror and go, well, I love you. You're pretty cool.
Yeah, and normalize that instead of the self-judgment and the critiquing of all the things that we did wrong or forgot or made a mistake on. Normalize being grateful for you, affirming you, and understanding your worth and your value. So if we were to recap what today's episode and how you shared about being a caregiver warrior really was and is, what would you say that would be?
I think being a caregiver warrior is about the courage we need to have to love ourselves as much as we love the people we care for.
That was good. Mic drop. Okay. It's on the floor. Okay. Very nice.
Well, thank you, Susanne, so much for coming on Care-isma with us and sharing your story. We'd like to thank all the listeners for tuning in to this episode. We hope today's conversation helped you reflect on your own journey as a caregiver and empower you to put yourself first without the judgment or the guilt. Remember, taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary.
And if you resonated with today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. And as always, take a moment today to show yourself some love. You're doing more than enough.
Until next time, take care of you.